The sharp knock on my front door at exactly 10 p.m. sounded like the kind of knock that changes a person's life forever. I had been sitting alone in my quiet living room, the television playing in the background without my attention, when those three slow, desperate knocks echoed through the house. I wasn't expecting anyone. Most people had quietly disappeared from my life after my divorce 18 months earlier. As I opened the door, my heart froze. Standing under the dim porch light, soaked from the cold rain with a small travel bag clutched tightly against her chest, was my ex-wife's best friend, Emily. Her eyes were red from crying, her hands were trembling, and before I could ask a single question, she looked at me with a mixture of fear and hope and softly said, "Can I stay here for one night?" In that single moment, I realized this wasn't just another unexpected visitor. It was the beginning of a story that would completely reshape everything I believed about forgiveness, kindness, and the invisible ways people save each other. Before we continue, if you believe kindness still exists and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Kind Heart Stories. Your support allows more heartfelt stories like this to reach people who may need them the most. For several long seconds, I simply stood there, unable to process what I was seeing. Emily had always been loyal to my ex-wife during our marriage. Whenever we attended parties or family dinners, she naturally stayed by my wife's side. After the divorce, I assumed she had completely cut me out of her life, just like everyone else. Yet here she was, standing on my porch in the pouring rain, looking nothing like the confident woman I remembered. Her expensive clothes were wrinkled, her makeup had been washed away by tears and rain, and there was a sadness in her face that no words could explain. Without asking another question, I stepped aside and quietly invited her in. Sometimes people ask for shelter not because they have nowhere to sleep, but because they have nowhere left to feel safe. The warmth inside the house slowly replaced the chill that had settled into her bones. I handed her a towel, made a cup of hot tea, and pointed toward the guest room that had remained untouched for months. She thanked me with barely a whisper before disappearing behind the closed door. That night I barely slept. My mind raced with endless questions. Had something happened to my ex-wife? Was Emily in danger? Why had she chosen my house instead of calling one of her own friends or family? Every possible answer seemed unbelievable, yet none prepared me for what I would discover the following morning. As sunlight filled the kitchen, Emily looked exhausted but calmer. She finally explained that over the past year, her life had slowly fallen apart behind the smiles she showed everyone else. She had lost her job after the company she worked for unexpectedly closed. Financial pressure forced her to move in with her boyfriend, believing they would support each other through difficult times. Instead, his controlling behavior became emotionally exhausting. He isolated her from friends, criticized every decision she made, and slowly convinced her she wasn't capable of surviving on her own. The previous evening, after another painful argument, she packed one small bag and walked away with nowhere to go. She admitted she had driven around for hours before remembering something I had once done years earlier that no one else even noticed. She reminded me of a rainy evening long before my divorce when an elderly neighbor's car had broken down near our house. While everyone else stayed inside, I had walked into the storm to help push the vehicle into safety. Emily had quietly watched from the window that night. She said she never forgot that moment because genuine kindness is difficult to erase from memory. When she found herself completely alone, she asked herself one simple question: if there was one person who might help without asking for anything in return, who would it be? Somehow, despite everything that had happened between me and my ex-wife, my name became her answer. Her words stayed with me throughout the day. Ever since my divorce, I had convinced myself that people only remembered my failures. My marriage had ended painfully. Friends chose sides. Family gatherings became uncomfortable. Even neighbors stopped asking how I was doing. I had spent months believing that nothing good remained from the life I once built. Yet sitting across from me was someone who remembered not my mistakes, but a single quiet act of compassion that I had almost forgotten myself. Emily stayed for one night, then another. I helped her search for apartments, rewrite her resume, and apply for new jobs. There were no hidden expectations, no romantic intentions, and no complicated promises. It was simply one broken person helping another broken person stand again. During those weeks, something surprising happened to both of us. She slowly regained her confidence while I slowly rediscovered my purpose. The silence that had haunted my home after the divorce was replaced by conversations about hope, mistakes, childhood memories, and dreams neither of us had admitted aloud for years. One afternoon she confessed something that completely changed my perspective. She admitted that during my marriage she had often believed every negative story she heard about me because it was easier than finding the truth herself. It wasn't until she experienced emotional manipulation firsthand that she realized how often good people are misunderstood. Her apology wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, sincere, and deeply human. I accepted it without hesitation because I had spent too much of my own life wishing someone would believe my side of the story. Several weeks later, Emily received an offer for a new job in another city. It wasn't glamorous, but it represented a fresh beginning. The evening before she left, we sat on the back porch watching the sunset paint the sky with shades of orange and gold. Neither of us spoke very much. Sometimes gratitude is too deep for words. Before leaving the next morning, she handed me a handwritten letter. She explained that she wanted me to read it only after she had driven away. Inside the letter were words I will never forget. She wrote that she had arrived at my door believing she needed a place to sleep for one night. Instead, she had found proof that good people still exist. She thanked me for restoring her faith in humanity during the darkest chapter of her life. Then she wrote something that brought tears to my eyes. She said I probably thought I had saved only her, but in reality, by opening that door, I had also rescued the lonely, hopeless version of myself that had been hiding behind grief since the divorce. Months passed, and life gradually became brighter for both of us. Emily flourished in her new career, rebuilt healthy friendships, and found peace she never thought possible. I began volunteering at a local community center, helping families who were struggling through difficult transitions. The experience reminded me that healing rarely happens all at once. It grows quietly through small acts of kindness repeated over and over again until they become someone's reason to keep believing. If you've made it this far, please leave a comment with the words, "Kindness opens doors," because those three simple words carry the heart of this story and remind others that compassion can change lives when we least expect it. As this story comes to an end, if it touched your heart in any way, please like this video, share it with someone who may need encouragement today, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kind Heart Stories. Your support helps these stories reach people who might be waiting for a reason to believe in hope again. Looking back, I often think about that rainy night and those 3 quiet knocks on my door. Most people spend their lives waiting for extraordinary opportunities to make a difference, never realizing that life usually disguises them as ordinary moments. Opening my door seemed like such a small decision. Yet that single act transformed 2 broken lives forever. I learned that forgiveness doesn't always mean returning to the past, and kindness doesn't require perfect circumstances. Sometimes the greatest miracle begins when one hurting person simply chooses not to turn another hurting person away. The world often teaches us to protect ourselves from disappointment, but compassion asks us to risk opening the door anyway. And every time I hear rain tapping against my windows late at night, I smile quietly, knowing that one unexpected knock became the reason 2 strangers found their way back to hope.